My girlfriend Willow stayed up all night helping her male assistant write a proposal and only came home when the sun came up. I calmly told her we should break up. She looked confused. All this just because I didn't reply to your messages yesterday. We grew up together, supported each other from nothing, built everything side by side. She was sure I could never leave her. But when Willow could patiently tutor her male assistant late into the night just because of a work problem, when she could kindly drive him home in the rain because he forgot his umbrella, and when she could rush out to his place at midnight because he called to say his apartment was leaking, my feelings for her were worn away, bit by bit. She forgot that I'm someone with an obsessive sense of emotional purity. The engagement ring I had treasured for years, I could throw it away without hesitation. Once someone's soul feels tainted, I can never keep them again. Chapter 1. The door lock clicked softly. Willow was home, with the lingering trace of her expensive perfume filling the entryway. I spoke calmly. We're breaking up. She looked up, her delicate face, beautiful enough to make anyone lose their mind, filled with confusion. All this just because I didn't reply to your messages yesterday. I tugged the corner of my lips, coldly, indifferently. Yeah, just because of that. She let out a helpless laugh, as if she'd just heard the most ridiculous joke, tossed her trench coat carelessly onto the sofa, and said, "George, we're adults. Can't we just give each other a little space?" Before I could answer, she naturally walked over, stretched out her arms, and, just like countless times before, tried to snuggle playfully into my chest. Her red lips brushed my ear, her breath warm and fragrant. "Don't be childish," she murmured. "What do you want this time?" My whole body went rigid. Right from the days when we started from nothing to the moment she became the richest woman in the country, Willow had long since made up her mind. She was sure I could never bear to leave her. When I didn't respond, she added, her tone carrying a trace of indulgent patience, "I wasn't ignoring you. Yesterday was just really busy. A major project. I couldn't take your call." She patted my cheek lightly. "You're just overthinking it." Those simple words crushed the last trace of tenderness I still had left. I shoved her away, breaking free from the warmth I once drowned in. I saw the flicker of shock in her eyes as I said flatly, "That's it, I'm leaving. Love is like an exam. Miss one question, and to me, your score is 0. If it's not perfect love, I don't want it." Chapter 2. All this just because I didn't reply to your messages yesterday. Her tone carried disbelief, as though she had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. The cold morning light fell across her flawless makeup, revealing both perfection and the weariness of someone who always stands above others. Willow sighed, her breath heavy with impatience rather than regret. "George, we're adults. Can't we give each other a little more space?" Her perfectly shaped brows knitted slightly as she began to explain, yet her tone was that of a superior assigning tasks to a subordinate. "I wasn't ignoring you. I was just busy with work, an important project. I really didn't have time." Zip. The sound of my suitcase zipper cut through the air like a blade, slicing apart whatever fragile bonds still existed between us. I stood up, my tall frame brushing past her as I walked by. I didn't even bother to look at her. "That's it," I said flatly. "I'm leaving." A cold hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. There was finally a hint of panic in Willow's voice. "George, where are you going? Are you going to leave me?" I yanked my arm free as if her touch had burned me, looking straight into the face I had once loved to my very core. I spoke each word clearly and coldly. "Leave you." A humorless smile tugged at my lips. "Willow, remember this. It was you who left me first." My fingertips had barely touched the metal door handle when, click, the lock turned. The door swung open. A young, handsome man stood in the doorway, his expression innocent, a faint, knowing smile on his lips. It was Willow's personal secretary, Makoto. The three of us stood there, frozen in the cramped entryway, a scene so ironic it almost felt staged. My eyes slowly dropped to his hand. In his long, slender fingers, he held a key identical to mine. I laughed, silently, bitterly, until my chest ached. Makoto's gaze flicked briefly toward my suitcase. For a fleeting instant, a glint of triumph flashed deep in his eyes, so quick it could almost be missed. He smiled, eyes curving in practiced politeness, his voice clear and gentle. "George, going on a business trip?" He stepped aside, as if making room for me, his posture relaxed and confident, like he was the real master of this house. "Go ahead, don't worry. I'll take good care of President Liu while you're away." The words "take good care of" were pronounced with deliberate clarity. I didn't even bother to look at him again. I just wanted to leave this disgusting place as fast as possible. But Makoto raised his voice, making sure Willow could hear every word. "George, don't be mad at President Liu. She really didn't mean to ignore your messages yesterday." He sighed, feigning guilt. His performance impeccable. "It was my fault. I'm the stupid one. The project was important, and I kept messing it up." His tone was full of admiration for Willow Liu. "President Liu is so gentle and patient. She stayed up late just to teach me." He looked at me again, his expression full of false sympathy. "George, Don't be upset with President Liu over this. And please don't leave home just to prove a point. She's already under a lot of pressure from work, you shouldn't make her worry even more. His twisted words hit me like a bucket of filthy water thrown in my face. And Willow, she just stood there, watching in silence. Not a word, not a single defense. Her silence said it all. She agreed with Makoto. Agreed that I was just an immature man throwing a tantrum, using leaving home as a pathetic trick to win her attention. I laughed, a sound that came from deep in my throat, laced with an icy mockery. Secretary Ito, I said slowly, my voice calm while my gaze sliced through him like a blade, stripping him down piece by piece. You've been working here for 3 months, right? And after 3 months, your proposal still needs the president herself to stay up all night, guiding you hand in hand through every detail. How about this, you return your salary to President Liu? My voice was soft, but every word landed like a slap across Makoto's face. If I were you, I'd be ashamed to take that paycheck. 3 months on the job, still clueless about your work, yet instead of asking your senior colleagues, you waste the president's private time. When it rains, you don't bring an umbrella, and somehow you just happen to bump into President Liu's car at the company gate. Even during our vacation, you always manage to cause urgent problems right on cue. You can't write a proposal, you mess up travel schedules, and when your apartment conveniently floods or loses power, your first instinct is to call the busiest woman in the company. My eyes left him and returned to Willow's cold, expressionless face. Secretary Ito, I continued, are you a man-child? Or is she the only person you know in this entire city? Makoto's face turned ghostly pale. His eyes went wide, full of wounded innocence. George, that's too much. Finally, Willow moved. She stepped forward, shielding Makoto behind her like a mother protecting a frightened child. She patted his shoulder gently, soothingly. He just started this job. It's normal that he doesn't understand everything yet. As his seniors, shouldn't we help him? Then she lifted her gaze to me, her eyes filled with reproach. Why have you become so cold and unfeeling? Behind her, Makoto let out a stifled sob, perfectly timed, perfectly pathetic. In the dead silence of the hallway, the sound grated like nails on glass. I stared straight into Willow's eyes. I've always been this way, I said evenly. Is this your first day knowing me? My gaze drifted across her face, familiar yet suddenly so distant, and then fixed on the object that destroyed everything. That key, the key to what was once our home. My voice came out hoarse, trembling without my permission. This key, you just gave it to him so easily. Willow froze. I gave a hollow, bitter laugh. Then, without another glance, I picked up my suitcase. This was the first home we built together in this city, our fortress, the proof of years of struggle and trust. And now, she had opened its doors to another man without hesitation. I pulled my thin coat tighter around me and stepped into the freezing night. The wind cut through me, sharp and merciless, but I let it. I wanted it to freeze me from the inside out, until I could no longer feel the ache she left behind. Chapter 3. Back at another apartment, my own place. It was quiet, almost too quiet, empty, but clean. No couch we picked out together, no scented candles she loved, not a single trace of Willow anywhere. Good. I opened my laptop. The pale glow from the screen lit up my bloodless face. When my fingers typed out the resignation letter, there wasn't a hint of hesitation. Seconds later, my phone rang. The HR manager's cautious voice came through the line. George, about your resignation, does President Liu know? I curved my lips into a faint, distant smile. She knows. Just process it as usual. The HR manager exhaled in relief. Her tone even turned gossip-light and curious. Why are you quitting? Is it because President Liu's starting a new branch and wants you to take charge? I paused, eyes fixed on the dark city outside the window. Sure, I said quietly. Let's say that. Yeah. From now on, my life really is something I'll take charge of myself. 2 days crawled by in exhaustion. When I finally collapsed into bed, I slept like the dead. The next time I opened my eyes, sunlight was stabbing through the curtains. Out of habit, I reached for my phone and opened my social feed. A grid of 9 photos filled the screen before I could even blink. A company retreat. In the pictures, everyone was gathered around a giant barbecue grill, smiling brightly. Willow stood out, dressed in a pure white custom tracksuit, elegant, graceful, effortlessly radiant. And beside her, in a gaudy rainbow-colored outfit that made him look like a peacock spreading his tail, was Makoto, full of energy, youth practically dripping off him. My fingers froze, almost against my will. I tapped to enlarge the photos. 1, 2, 3. No matter where Willow was, Makoto was right there beside her, clinging to her like a decorative pendant. In the group photo, everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing, placing the two of them in the very center, as if they were the perfect couple. I stared at Makoto's smug, triumphant smile and couldn't help but let out a cold, humorless laugh. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was the man of the house. Not the secretary. My phone buzzed. The screen lit up. A message from Willow. A photo of grilled meat sizzling on a barbecue plate. Just from the look of it, I could tell it was Makoto's handiwork. Willow had never so much as boiled an egg in her life. Cooking had always been my thing. Under the photo, she'd added a short line of text. The barbecue smells amazing. When you're done being upset, let's go hiking and have grilled meat again. Yours is still the best. Don't be mad anymore. Come back to the company. Her tone was light, almost teasing, like I was just throwing a harmless tantrum. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, calmly, I pressed and held her profile picture. Delete contact. Confirm. The motion was smooth, decisive, like snuffing out the last flickering flame that once kept me warm. I took a cab to the countryside, to the old home of Grandpa Lee, the man who had taken both Willow and me in. That place had once been our only route. Grandpa Lee looked much older now, his back more hunched than I remembered. When he saw me, his wrinkled face lit up in surprise and joy. "George, you're back. Didn't you say work keeps you busy?" I swallowed down the ache rising in my chest and forced a smile. "I just missed you, Grandpa. Thought I'd come visit. How have you been feeling lately?" Before Grandpa Lee could answer, the curtain to the inner room lifted, and two figures stepped out. In that instant, I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice pit. It was Willow, and beside her, Makoto. Makoto's eyes gleamed with unhidden pride. "Oh, George, you're here too." His voice feigned surprise, but every syllable dripped with smugness. Grandpa Lee looked between us, confusion clouding his old, weary eyes. Willow took a graceful step forward, her posture calm, confident, like she was still the one in control. "I figured you'd come here," she said lightly. "So I came to find you." Grandpa Lee's frown deepened. "But Willow," he said plainly, "I asked you earlier why you didn't come with George. Didn't you say he was busy at work and couldn't get away?" The air froze. A flicker of stiffness passed over Willow's face, but it vanished almost instantly. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear with practiced ease. "We had a fight," she said with a sigh, her tone soft, indulgent. "He even blocked me for a while." Then she turned to Grandpa Lee, voice gentle. "I just didn't want you to worry, Grandpa." My stare sharpened to a blade as I turned it on Makoto. My voice came out low and cold. "Who gave you permission to bring him here?" Makoto instantly slipped into his familiar act, eyes wide, voice trembling, face painted with false innocence. Willow frowned, exasperation coloring her tone. "He was just being kind," she added lightly, almost dismissively. "When he heard I was coming to find you here, our adoptive grandpa, he insisted on coming along. Said he didn't want me to run into any trouble." Then she actually laughed, a soft, indulgent sound. "He worries too much. What kind of danger could I possibly face in the place I grew up?" A bitter laugh rose in my chest, sharp, hollow, cold. So she did remember. She remembered this was the home where we grew up together. The home of the men who took in 2 orphans and gave us a family. The place that was our root, our refuge, our beginning. And yet, she had the nerve to bring him here. The men who coveted her, to trample all over this sacred ground. Did she want to flaunt it, or to prove something? Rage tore through my veins, boiling away reason. I took a hard step back, putting distance between us. "Willow," I rasped, my voice shaking with fury. "Take him, and get the hell out." Her expression finally cracked. The calm mask she wore shattered completely. "Are you done?" she snapped coldly. "When did you become so irrational, so ready to lash out without even listening?" Makoto was just being considerate, and you're actually jealous of that. Jealous. The word almost made me laugh. She thought I was just jealous. She thought this was about petty jealousy. My vision went red. I grabbed the gift bags and fruit I'd brought for Grandpa and hurled them with all my strength. "Get out." The boxes burst open at their feet, fruit scattering across the floor. A pathetic mess. "Both of you, get out of my sight." The roar tore from my throat, raw and animalistic. "If you come back again, every time you come, I'll drive you out myself." Willow froze, her perfect brows drawn tight, her face pale with anger. She stared at me for a long moment, and in her eyes, there was no pain, no regret, only disappointment and contempt. "You're unbelievable," she said coldly. "Calm yourself, George. You're losing it." With that, she turned sharply and left, still holding her head high. Makoto followed close behind, and as he passed me, the corner of his mouth lifted into a sly, triumphant smirk. They left without looking back. I stood there, chest heaving, my breath coming in ragged bursts. My whole body trembled so hard I could barely stay upright. Then, a frail, trembling hand settled gently on my shoulder. Grandpa Lee. He didn't say a word. He just patted me softly, once, twice, as if afraid I might break. That small, tender gesture, it shattered everything I'd been holding in. All the pain, humiliation, exhaustion, and despair I had buried so deep, burst free all at once. My knees nearly gave out, and in the house that once felt like home, I broke down completely, my sobs muffled, choked. As I cried for everything I had lost. Chapter 4. That night, I didn't go back. The vast city seemed to be cut off from the outside world, and I stayed in Grandpa Lee's house, squeezing onto the not-so-spacious bed with him. Grandpa Lee's aged hand gently patted my back, letting out long sighs. When I first found you two, you were just tiny little things. She looked at you for the first time, and her eyes lit up, like she had found a treasure. Back then, you were like a hedgehog covered in thorns, ignoring everyone, with a terrible temper. But Willow wasn't scared. She loved following you around, constantly telling people that our George was the best looking. She said you weren't ignoring people, you were just new here, and scared. Grandpa Lee's voice gradually lowered. She said, as long as she treated you with her whole heart, one day, you would warm up that ice inside you. I stared out the window, the night like a giant net, trapping me, suffocating me, and keeping me from sleeping. Yes, she warmed it up, and then, how could people change so quickly? That girl who, from the first time we met, promised to treat me well, that girl who, time and time again, protected me without hesitation, always favoring me, that girl who would believe in me unconditionally, without any need for a reason. How did she become a stranger, someone who no longer understood even the most basic boundaries, her face completely unrecognizable? The tide of memories surged. On the way to school, she would always be standing at the intersection, holding a warm breakfast, just to wait for me to go with her. On the way home from school, she would quietly follow me, listening to me say nothing, while she kept talking nonstop, desperately trying to make me feel better. Later, when a girl from the class next door confessed to me, she happened to see it. She was like a small animal whose territory had been invaded, instantly bristling with anger, rushing up to shove that girl off balance. She shouted, "Don't you understand the order of things? This is my future husband." My face turned red with embarrassment and anger as I looked at her. She, too, turned red and looked furious, but still held her neck high and stared at me with those clear, domineering eyes. "You're not allowed to agree to anyone else. When we grow up, we'll get married and be husband and wife for life. No one can separate us. Husband and wife for life. No one can separate us." The hottest vows once made have now turned into the sharpest knives, repeatedly stabbing into my heart. My stomach has always been sensitive. Even the slightest mistake in what I eat causes me to have diarrhea. So she was always extra careful. In the drawer of my desk when I was young, and in the cabinet of my office when I grew up, there was always stomach medicine she had prepared for me. Her concern was a steady stream, but her protection was a raging fire. In the first year of college, because I was quiet and didn't like socializing, I was seen as an easy target by a domineering boy in the dorm. He led others to bully me. My stubborn nature wouldn't let me tell anyone, but I believed in getting revenge for every grievance. They threw my textbooks into the sink, so I filled all of their backpacks with toads and gave them a midnight scare. They secretly turned off my alarm, causing me to be late for class, so I threw all their socks and underwear into the toilet. I responded to the world's cruelty with the strongest stance, but only Willow could see through the thorns I had raised and the already red rings around my eyes. She could see through my stubborn character and the sensitive heart that would shatter at the slightest touch. It was only after her repeated questioning that I finally revealed the truth. I thought she would advise me to endure, or come up with some even sneakier ways to deal with it. But the next day, she rushed straight into the boys' dormitory like a gust of wind. Bang! Crash! The sound of things being smashed echoed through the entire building, attracting countless curious onlookers. It was the first time I saw her with such a fierce look in her eyes, staring at that boy with a gaze so fiery it seemed like it would burn him through. "If you dare bully George again, I'll tell the teacher and report it to the higher-ups. I'll make sure you won't be able to finish this semester." Because of this incident, she carried a disciplinary record that followed her throughout her entire college life. I angrily scolded her for being impulsive, telling her that this would ruin her academic record, but she just smiled, tightly gripping my hand and said, "No matter when, always remember, I'm here behind you. I will be your forever support." The college years flew by, and we plunged into the torrent of reality. Seizing the opportunity of live streaming, we rented a small apartment and began our journey of starting from scratch. In the hustle and bustle of socializing, she always stood in front of me, knowing that my stomach was delicate. She blocked every drink offered to me. She'd rather drink to the point of stomach bleeding and be rushed to the emergency room than let me touch a drop of alcohol. And when a business partner, fueled by alcohol, became inappropriate with her, the blood instantly rushed to my head, and my clenched fists would strike without hesitation. She would instantly sober up, slap him hard across the face, and tear up the signed contract on the spot. We were each other's strongest armor and sharpest weapon. Through the winds and rains, we helped each other, relying on one another. Our world, once an underground basement with no sunlight, slowly filled with the warmth of the sun. From a cozy two-bedroom apartment, to a spacious flat in the city center, to a luxurious villa with a swimming pool in the suburbs. But the place we loved the most was still our first small apartment, where all our struggles were marked. I never doubted that she was the one I was meant to spend my life with. Our wedding date was set for next year, but that indestructible dam began to quietly crack after a man named Makoto appeared. He was everything I wasn't. I was solitary and stubborn, while he was youthful and full of energy, like a little sun that would never tire. He might be a bit clumsy, but his words were sweet enough to make anyone sickly, easily winning everyone's favor. From the moment he started working, the office became his accident zone. The printer always jammed for him. The computer always crashed for him. The most important documents he'd always forget to save. A person who didn't even have a driver's license dared to take my car to drive clients around, getting into countless minor accidents. But that Willow, who would once go against the whole world for me, now appeared as patient as a saint. She never scolded him, just casually saying, "Fresh graduates need time to grow." We were like that too. I told myself this, trying to suppress the inexplicable irritation in my heart. I thought it didn't really matter, until the first weekend after he started. That day marked our 10th anniversary with Willow. Just like in previous years, we were at that exclusive couples restaurant downtown, the one that's nearly impossible to book, enjoying a serenity that belonged only to the two of us. The candlelight flickered, tracing her profile with a softness filled with mystery. When the waiter finished the final note on the violin, he slowly pushed toward us a cake topped with strawberries. The air smelled of cloying sweetness, just like the years we had spent together. I took her hand and leaned in to blow out the candle that symbolized another year. At that moment, bang! The door of the restaurant was flung open violently, and a figure completely out of place burst in, shattering all the romance in the room. It was Makoto. Like a lost fly, he came straight to our table, ignoring my cold stare. He grabbed Willow's sleeve in one swift motion. His hand rested shamelessly on her forearm. "President Liu, it seems there's an issue with the project. Could you return to the office to fix it?" he said hastily, his tone carrying just the right mix of nervousness and feigned helplessness. The temperature around me plummeted to freezing. The smile in my eyes turned to solid ice. "You're a secretary. If you can't do your job properly, do you expect your boss to clean up your mess?" My voice was cold, every word a strike. Makoto seemed intimidated by my presence. He shrank back, and as if seeking protection, clung even closer to Willow. "I'm sorry, George. I didn't realize you were here. I didn't greet you." He lowered his head, stammering, looking like a frightened, harmless fawn. "Don't be angry, but work really is important. It's just a date, George. Don't be jealous. You should think of the bigger picture." The bigger picture? Those words made me laugh, a laugh without warmth, filled only with absurdity and sarcasm. You, a secretary who can't even do his job properly, lecturing me about the bigger picture. I looked at him, my gaze sharp as a blade. "No skill, no sense. If you can handle this position, then do it. If not, get out right now." By the time I finished, Makoto's eyes were already red. He looked at me with that pitiful yet provocative expression, as if I were the one making an unreasonable scene. Willow let out a long sigh. That sigh was like a leaf that cut into my chest. Again and again, with resignation, she stood up and finally withdrew the hand I had been holding. "That project is important. He's new. It's normal for him to have difficulties," she said softly, but her tone carried a firm finality that allowed no argument. "I'll handle it." She didn't even look at me. It was the first time she didn't consult me, the first time she didn't take my side. She simply stood up calmly, took her coat, and without hesitation, walked out of the restaurant with that man. Outside, the night was deep. Inside, the candles flickered. That warm light fell on me, but all that remained was cold solitude. She left, on our anniversary. She left me for another man. I stared at the candle I hadn't blown out. The flame danced, as if mocking my loneliness. The cream on the cake was beginning to melt, and the red strawberries dripped juice like blood. Our 10 years together began to rot and dissolve from the moment that man appeared. Doubt sprouted from that instant. We had a cold fight that lasted 3 days. I didn't answer her calls or her messages. I wrapped myself in thorns, thinking that would protect me from being hurt, until she appeared in my office with the newest gaming console in her hands, the one I had wanted for a long time but had resisted buying. She shoved the gaming console into my arms in front of all my colleagues, her voice so soft it could melt honey. "Don't be mad anymore, okay?" The office burst into cheers and applause. Every gaze turned toward me, trapping me in a position where refusal was impossible. So, I forced out a stiff smile and pretended to forgive her with a proud, reluctant grace. But I knew that crack in my heart hadn't healed because of a game console. That so-called reconciliation only covered up a festering wound. Quarrels became the main theme between us. Makoto was like a ghost that refused to leave, seeping into every corner of our lives. When we watched movies, he'd call, saying the printer had broken again. When we had dinner, he'd send a photo of himself working overtime with the caption, With President Lou here, all the hard work is worth it. In the picture, Willow Lou's profile glowed with a gentle, tender smile. His social media feed became a grand stage, a declaration of war against me. Every photo, every word, dripped with open admiration and yearning for Willow. I was furious. I was jealous. Like a madman, I fought with her over and over again. But her answer was always the same. He's just a young man fresh out of college. He doesn't know any better. Don't take it to heart. He's naive and inexperienced. Be more tolerant of him. How ridiculous. She was asking me to tolerate another man's coveting of her. And every fight ended the same way, with her bringing me gifts. The latest sneakers, limited edition figurines, expensive headphones. Things that used to make me happy for days now felt like cold hush money. She sealed my mouth with presents, trying to fill the void of the love she had taken away. And I was pathetic. I couldn't bear to lose our 10 years together, the memories that once felt perfect. So, again and again, I chose to soften, to deceive myself, until that day, when I looked into the mirror and saw the face twisted by jealousy staring back at me, and a wave of sheer panic surged through my chest. Had I believed too much? Believed that our 10 years were unbreakable? Makoto's presence left me restless day and night, suffocating me. An overwhelming sense of crisis took hold. I couldn't go on like this. I needed an answer, a promise. A crazy thought took shape in my mind. I wanted to marry her. I wanted to lock her by my side with a ring and a certificate. To tell the whole world, she's mine. Once that idea sprouted, it grew wildly out of control. The day before, I called her, my voice trembling slightly with nervous anticipation. Willow, tomorrow night, let's meet where we first fell in love. I have something very, very important to tell you. After hanging up, I opened the bottom drawer and took out a velvet box that had been waiting there for a long time. Inside lay a ring. I was going to tell her I wanted to marry her, that I wanted Willow to be my wife, forever, until no one could ever tear us apart again. I waited for her all day at the place we had agreed upon. From the break of dawn to the fall of dusk, the velvet box in my pocket pressed painfully against my chest. That tiny ring now seemed to mock my foolish hope. In the end, I couldn't resist. My hand trembled as I lit up my phone screen. In our chat window, my morning message, "I'm waiting for you," sat there alone. Below it, nothing but silence. Not a single word, not even a punctuation mark in reply. Then, at the top of the screen, a sudden notification popped up. A new post. Without thinking, I tapped it open. It was from Makoto. In the photo, Makoto was smiling brightly, radiating sunshine, and behind him was a background I knew all too well. Willow, the Willow I had waited for all day, was sitting at Makoto's secretary desk. She wore a sharp, professional suit, her head tilted slightly, lips curved in a gentle smile as she focused intently on his computer screen. It was a tenderness that belonged to President Lou, one I had never seen from her before. The caption beneath the photo stabbed at my chest, each word a needle piercing deep into my heart. My queen is truly so kind. When I ask her about work issues, she doesn't hesitate to stay behind and patiently guide me. I must work even harder to live up to my queen's careful mentoring. My queen. He called her my queen. From the distance, the church bells began to toll, slow, echoing chimes, one after another, as if ringing the death knell for the beautiful dream I had been clinging to for 10 long years. I suddenly laughed so hard that tears streamed down my face. I was truly the biggest fool in the world. Did I really think a ring could lock down a heart that no longer belonged to me? This ring could never hold her. Her heart already reflected someone else's shadow, clearly, unmistakably. What she gave me wasn't love, it was pity. And that was never the kind of love I wanted. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet box, opened it, looked at it one last time. Then, as I turned away, I swung my arm with all my strength. The ring, carrying all my hope and despair, flew into the darkness by the roadside, swallowed whole by the night. Chapter 5. The resignation letter I submitted a few days ago finally received the approval email, with that familiar red company seal. It's over. This company used to be the shared creation of Willow and me. Every brick and tile carried traces of our past. Now, I just want to erase those traces completely. Without a moment's hesitation, I contacted a few shareholders I knew and quietly sold off my shares in batches. I wanted nothing more to do with the name Willow. All the effort, all those sleepless nights, at least they've turned into these cold numbers. That's what I deserve. It's also my last shred of dignity. Just then, my college classmate David called. His voice was as cheerful as ever. He said he was organizing a business reunion for old classmates. I stayed silent for a moment. After leaving Willow, I had to start paving a new path for myself. Connections, those matter more than anything else in this circle. I agreed to go. The hotel was dazzlingly lit. Beneath the massive crystal chandelier, glasses clinked and laughter filled the air. Taking a deep breath, I pushed all my emotions deep down, put on a polite smile, and straightened my suit. The moment I stepped into the banquet hall, That familiar yet distant buzz of chatter rushed toward me. George. David spotted me immediately. He strode over, slapped me hard on the shoulder, and grinned. Long time no see. Man, you still look as sharp as ever. His hearty laugh was full of the warmth of reunion. Seeing an old friend again melted a bit of the coldness in my chest. I forced a smile and exchanged pleasantries with him. After a few minutes of small talk, David's eyes instinctively glanced behind me, filled with confusion. Where's Willow? Didn't she come with you? He had no idea. His tone was so naturally familiar. Then he sighed, his voice brimming with unhidden envy. Man, I've always been jealous of you too. From school uniforms to wedding vows, you're like the perfect example of true love. Childhood sweethearts, building a company together, supporting each other, and being so successful. Seriously, when are we finally getting to drink at your wedding? Each sentence felt like a dull knife cutting into my heart again and again. Those once proud labels had turned into the sharpest irony. The noise around me seemed to fade away, and I heard my own voice, calm to the point of indifference. I shook my head slightly. We broke up. As soon as the words left my mouth, the entire ballroom seemed to fall silent. Even the air felt heavier. The classmates nearby widened their eyes in disbelief, their breath catching. Broke up? No way. You two were the model couple of our department. How could that happen after all these years? Yeah, you've built such a big company together, you've finally made it. And now this. The tide of shock and question surged toward me. I smiled, a faint, humorless smile that never reached my eyes. Nothing's impossible. People come and go in life. That's just how it is. My calmness poured over them like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing all the noise. David frowned deeply, scanning me from head to toe, and lowered his voice. Wait, from the way you're talking, don't tell me Willow did something to betray you. I picked up my glass, gently swirling the amber liquid inside. My gaze stayed on the shimmering reflection. I shook my head and spoke softly, the words sounding more like a question without an answer. Maybe not. That single, weightless word I uttered hit David like a hammer. He opened his mouth as if to ask more, but when he met the dead silence in my eyes, he swallowed the words back down. He could tell I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And just then, the heavy, carved wooden doors of the banquet hall swung open from the outside. The lively chatter instantly fell into an eerie silence. A stunning figure strolled gracefully inside. It was Willow. And behind her, following step by step like an inseparable shadow, was a man, Makoto. My eyes stayed on her for barely a fraction of a second before I looked away, expressionless, but she, as if equipped with radar, came straight toward me. Makoto followed closely behind, not daring to leave her side. George, she greeted me with that all too familiar gentle smile, reaching out as if nothing had happened, trying to take my arm. Come on, don't be childish. Why did you block me? You've been angry long enough. Can't you just let it go? I'm apologizing now. Okay. Her tone was soft, even playfully reproachful. Disgust tightened my brow. Just before her fingers brushed the fabric of my suit, I caught her wrist and pushed her hand away. Precisely, coldly. I stepped back, widening the distance between us. Willow, please keep your distance. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear, sharp, and cold as ice. Willow's face went pale for a second. Makoto immediately stepped forward at just the right moment, lowering his gaze, his posture dripping with fake innocence. George, please don't be angry at President Liu anymore. His voice was perfectly pitched so that everyone nearby could hear. If you're upset, take it out on me. It's all my fault. If I weren't so slow, if I learned faster, she wouldn't have had to spend so much extra time teaching me. He lifted his head, eyes wide with pitiful sincerity. President Liu is just kind-hearted, always helping her juniors. There's nothing else between us. And really, she's been so good to me. That last phrase, so good, dripped with unspoken meaning. Around us, classmates began to circle closer, eyes darting between us with curiosity, judgment, and intrigue. David's face had turned dark as storm clouds. He jabbed me hard in the arm and muttered through clenched teeth. George, who the hell is this guy? I gave a faint, humorless smile, my gaze cutting past Makoto's act and landing squarely on Willow. Aren't you going to introduce him? My voice was calm, but it sliced cleanly through the suffocating silence. The man beside you, what exactly is his identity? Coming here to our class reunion. Willow's warm smile froze for a heartbeat, so brief it could have been a trick of the light, before she quickly smoothed it over with practiced grace. This is my secretary, Makoto. Her expression and tone were flawless, polished. He just graduated and isn't very experienced yet, but he's hardworking. He begged me to let him come and see what a professional event is like. I thought it'd be good exposure, so I brought him along. The classmates exchanged uneasy glances, eyes shifting between the three of us, but no one dared to speak. I nodded slowly, as though I'd just heard a moving story. President Liu truly has a saint's heart, always so eager to guide the younger generation. I let out a laugh, one that sounded polite but was cold and sharp as a blade. To have a boss like you, he's truly blessed beyond measure. Every word was dipped in sarcasm, each one landing like an invisible slap across both Willow's and Makoto's faces. I couldn't be bothered to keep watching their little performance. I turned to leave, but that fool, Makoto, clearly didn't know when to quit. He actually stepped forward and grabbed my arm. George, please don't be angry anymore. His face was on the verge of tears, a perfect imitation of a pretentious coquette. At a reunion like this, you should at least give President Liu some face. As her boyfriend, how could you embarrass her like that? He deliberately emphasized the word boyfriend, then straightened his posture, puffing his chest with smug satisfaction. President Liu is really amazing. Look at this suit I'm wearing. She picked it out for me herself. She said it makes me look more presentable, more elegant. I almost laughed from sheer disbelief at his audacity. Lowering my gaze, I looked at the hand clutching my arm, as if it were something filthy. Then, unhurriedly, I pried his fingers off one by one and said evenly, "Well, isn't that wonderful?" Pulling my arm free, I gave him a cold, razor-edged smile. Make sure President Liu gives you a bonus later. After all, it's rare these days to find a boss who personally picks out clothes for her male secretary. I paused, leaned closer to him so only the three of us could hear, and said clearly, word by word, "Since you two seem to have such a close working relationship, next time, don't forget to have President Liu help you pick your underwear too." The color drained from Willow Liu's face in an instant. She could no longer keep up her gentle facade. "George." Her voice turned sharp, tinged with both anger and panic. "What kind of nonsense are you spouting?" I turned back to glance at her one last time. My eyes were cold, filled with nothing but disgust. The corner of my lips curled into a faint, scornful smile, and I walked away without hesitation. Even as the tension from that ugly scene lingered in the air, Willow acted as if nothing had happened. She deliberately chose the seat right next to mine, like the furious woman from a few minutes ago had never existed. I frowned in disgust and instinctively thought about moving elsewhere, but a quick glance around showed that every seat along the long banquet table was already taken, old classmates chatting and laughing, glasses clinking. I was trapped in place, so I leaned back in my chair, my posture radiating stay away from me energy, and let her continue her act. Sure enough, Makoto, loyal as a trained lapdog, immediately sat down beside Willow. The atmosphere at the table was lively on the surface, but beneath the laughter and the toasts, a strange tension simmered. One tactless classmate raised his glass with a booming laugh. "You know, George and Willow were the most famous golden couple back in our school days." I merely pulled at the corner of my lips, my faint smile paper-thin and devoid of warmth. I said nothing. Another classmate, likely emboldened by alcohol, pressed on. "It's been so many years already. When are you two getting married? Have you set the date yet?" Makoto's expression visibly darkened. He quickly cut in, interrupting the question. He picked up a glossy sweet and sour rib with his chopsticks and carefully placed it onto Willow's plate. "President Liu, try this one, it's really good." The gesture was so practiced, so familiar, it was as if he'd rehearsed it hundreds of times. Willow didn't even lift her eyelids, she simply nodded, as if such intimacy were routine. The table went silent in an instant. Classmates exchanged glances, eyes flickering with curiosity and confusion. The air felt wrong, heavy with unspoken tension. Willow picked up the rib delicately, took a slow bite, then raised her eyes and smiled at the table with perfect poise. "If everything goes as planned, it'll be next year. When the date's set, you'll all get invitations to the wedding." The moment she finished, Makoto's lips tightened, his jaw stiff. He looked up and shot me a glance full of resentment and jealousy, barely masked. Watching this absurd play unfold, I could only find it laughable. I set down my glass. The clink of its base against the porcelain plate made a crisp sound. That small sound somehow acted like a signal. Every gaze turned toward me. Once the room had gone completely still, I cleared my throat slowly. "We already broke up." My tone was calm, detached, as if I were stating a fact that had nothing to do with me. "I'm afraid no one here will be receiving a wedding invitation." The gentle smile froze on Willow's face, shattering in the same instant. "George," her voice rose, tinged with anger. "Stop talking nonsense, don't make a scene here." The atmosphere at the table turned unbearably awkward. I set down my knife and fork, the clatter of metal sharp in the silence. "I'm done. Please, enjoy your meal." Then I stood, and under the stunned gazes of everyone present, I walked straight toward the restroom, without looking back. I left her to face the embarrassment alone. When I came out, drops of water slid from my fingertips, but they couldn't wash away the disgust simmering inside me. As I passed the lounge area, the door was slightly ajar. A familiar, nauseating voice drifted out. It was Willow. A female classmate spoke with concern. "Willow, what's going on? You and George, what happened? And that male secretary of yours?" Willow let out a soft laugh. The sound threaded with a mix of helplessness and indulgence. He's just being childish. He thinks I've been getting too close to my new secretary, so he got jealous. That's all. She had cast herself perfectly in the role of the gentle, tolerant older sister forgiving her immature younger brother. After all, she was a few years older than me. The classmate hesitated, but, no matter how upset he was before, he never said you two broke up in front of everyone. Maybe this time, he actually meant it. A brief silence followed. Then Willow's confident, commanding tone filled the air, every word heavy with control. Impossible. We grew up together, we're each other's family. No one in the world knows him better than I do. He promised he'd marry me, stay with me forever. He can't live without me. She paused, and her voice softened into something almost tender, sweet, even. And I can't live without him. Standing outside the door, listening to her delusional self-convincing, my expression didn't flicker. It was like watching a bad one-woman show. I took a step forward, walked past the doorway without even glancing inside, unwilling to waste a single look. When I returned to the banquet hall, the noise had resumed, but beneath that surface chatter, the air rippled with awkward curiosity. The dinner was nearly over. Classmates gathered in small groups, whispering among themselves. I found a seat in the corner. Uninterested in any of it, I pulled out my phone and scrolled aimlessly, isolating myself from the room. But of course, someone just had to come looking for trouble. Makoto approached, holding a wine glass and wearing that trademark fake smile. "George," he said, lowering his voice just enough so everyone nearby could still hear him. "You really were a bit out of line today." He sighed dramatically, feigning pity like some sanctimonious friend. "You haven't been coming to the company these days. President Lu's been overwhelmed, working non-stop. Don't you feel bad for her?" Then, as if unable to resist, his tone shifted, smug pride leaking from every word, his chin practically lifting toward the ceiling. "I've been staying late with President Lu every night lately, helping her with work until midnight." A few curious gazes instantly turned toward us. I stared at his smug little face, and the corner of my lips lifted into a smile, cold and sharp. I rose to my feet slowly, every motion deliberate, like a scene played in slow motion. It drew everyone's attention. "Makoto," my voice echoed through the now silent hall. "To flaunt being a Keptman so proudly, tell me, is that some kind of fetish? Does breaking up someone else's relationship make you feel accomplished?" The moment those words left my mouth, the air froze solid. Makoto's smug face went from red to white, then to an ugly purplish hue. He exploded, shouting so loudly his voice cracked. "What did you say, George? Who the hell are you calling a Keptman?" I kept my expression cold, and without hesitation, raised my hand. Slap. The sound cracked through the hall like a gunshot, sharp, clean, echoing. Willow happened to walk in just then. She froze at the sight, her face darkening instantly as she strode toward us, heels striking the marble with sharp clicks. "What's going on here? George, what are you doing?" Her voice was sharp and icy, brimming with accusation. Makoto immediately ducked behind her like a frightened child, eyes reddened, his tone trembling with well-rehearsed fragility. "President Lu, I just wanted to talk to George. I told him not to stay mad over you and me, but then he started calling me a Keptman and he hit me." Willow's expression hardened, frost settling between her elegant brows. She turned to me, her eyes full of open disappointment and reproach. "He's a man, George. How could you humiliate him like this in front of everyone? Apologize to him, right now." I looked at her, this woman glaring at me with righteous fury, shielding another man behind her like I was the villain, and strangely enough, I didn't feel a spark of anger, just amusement. It was like watching a meticulously directed farce full of gaping flaws. I let my gaze drift past her, scanning the room. "When I hit him," I said slowly, "everyone here was watching." My tone was even, unhurried, almost lazy. "Why don't you ask them what he said that earned him that slap?" Willow's brows knit tighter, her aura sharp with authority as she swept her cold gaze across the room. But the moment her eyes met theirs, every classmate looked away, averting their gaze, shifting awkwardly in silence. No one spoke. That silence was the clearest answer of all. A cold laugh escaped my lips, each word I spoke landing squarely on Willow's heart. "He said that while I was away from the company these past few days, you were staying up late working overtime with him. He also said I was being unreasonable, making things difficult for you." My eyes swept over Makoto's pitiful face behind her, my tone laced with pure derision. "So tell me, when a Keptman gets so proud of himself that he dares flaunt it right in front of the real one, doesn't that deserve a slap? Tell me, Willow, did he, or did he not, earn it?" Willow's face turned pale, her lips trembling slightly before she finally turned toward Makoto. Her voice carried a faint, pleading note she probably didn't even notice herself. Did you really say that?" Makoto shrank behind her, stammering through his crocodile tears. I only said it because I felt bad for you. President Lou, you've been working so hard lately. I just wanted George to stop being angry at you. His ability to twist the truth was truly masterful. Willow, finding her perfect excuse, let out a long sigh, one that carried exhaustion and a trace of disdain. She first turned gently to Makoto, softening her tone. George is my boyfriend. I know you mean well, but talking to him that way was disrespectful. Be more careful next time. Then she turned back to me, her elegant face once again wearing that superior, judgmental calm. Makoto didn't mean any harm. George, you, slap. The sound split the air like a crack of thunder, louder, sharper, and far crueler than before. The entire hall went dead silent. Willow's hand flew to her cheek, now red and swelling fast. Her pupils shrank, disbelief flooding her expression. George, you hit me. Her voice broke into a high, trembling cry. I looked at her, and in that moment, the last trace of misplaced affection in my heart burned away to ash. You want me to apologize? What a ridiculous joke. My gaze was ice cold, cutting like a blade as it swept across her and the men behind her. A kept man who covets what isn't his and meddles in other people's relationships deserves a slap, and a woman with no sense of boundaries, who cheats in spirit, deserves to wake the hell up. Each word dropped heavy, deliberate, like a hammer striking the hearts of everyone in the room. Willow, we're done. Don't come near me again, and don't you ever bring this disgusting excuse of a man into my sight. A cruel smile curved my lips, because if I see you again, I'll hit you both again. I didn't spare them another glance. Turning around, I even managed a polite smile toward the stunned faces around us. Sorry for the scene, everyone. Willow and I have broken up. As for why, well, you've just witnessed it yourselves. I apologize for ruining the evening. I have things to take care of, so I'll head out first. We'll catch up another time. In the suffocating silence that followed, I calmly picked up the coat draped over my chair and put it on. Then, without looking back once, I walked out, leaving that sickening farce behind me. Chapter 6. After George left, the grand banquet hall sank into a suffocating silence. The air turned to ice, thick, heavy, impossible to breathe. Makoto's tear-streaked face twisted into an indignant pout. He bit his lip stubbornly, refusing to let his tears fall, but that pitiful act, once so convincing, now looked hollow and revolting in the eyes of everyone watching. David couldn't take it anymore. His chest rose and fell sharply, fury flashing in his eyes. Willow, do you even realize how ridiculous you've been acting? Do you see what kind of place this is? It's our class business reunion. Tell me, since when was your secretary one of our classmates? You claim you brought him here to gain experience. Out of all the events in the world, you had to bring him to this one. Don't insult our intelligence. It's obvious you just wanted to parade him around in front of George. David's voice was the spark that lit the fuse, and the room exploded. Exactly, a woman's voice rang out sharply, trembling with pent-up anger. Everyone's been holding it in all night. It's about time someone said it. Anyone with eyes could see what he's after. Willow, are you really that blind? Or just pretending not to notice? A male classmate snorted coldly. What a perfect match, a cheating woman and a shameless man, coveting what isn't his, flattering his way into someone else's relationship, and still daring to show off in front of the person he wronged. Disgusting. Absolutely no shame. And to think he was one of the top students in college. What a disgrace. Makes you wonder what kind of parents raise a man like that. One sentence after another, whispers that had been bottled up for too long, now poured out like acid, drowning Willow in them. The side of her face, still burning red from George's slap, throbbed painfully, each pulse a reminder of her humiliation. But these words, these cutting, merciless accusations, burned even deeper than that slap. Her face turned from pale to ashen, trembling with humiliation and rage. Enough, she finally shouted, her voice cracking as it echoed through the room. Just stop talking. It's my fault, I should have been more careful. She drew in a shaky breath, her voice trembling with frustration and defiance. But I did not cheat. I didn't do anything wrong to him. Ha. David's laugh was cold and scathing. So unless you sleep with someone, it's not cheating. Why don't you ask anyone here, who could accept their partner being that close, that intimate, with someone else? He took a step forward, eyes blazing. Or imagine this instead, if it were George spending every day with another woman, constantly by her side, caring for her, even bringing her here tonight to flaunt in front of you. Willow, tell me, could you stand it? David's words hit like thunder, each one harder than the last. Willow's lips parted, ready to retort, but her phone suddenly buzzed in her pocket. The vibration hit her like a gunshot. Her heart jolted. She pulled out her phone, and on the screen was a short message from the company's HR director. Notice of personnel change. Department manager George has resigned. Just a single line, yet her eyes widened instantly. Her trembling fingers dialed the HR director's number without thinking. The call connected almost immediately. Hello, President Lou. How can I help you? When did George resign? Willow's voice rose to a shriek, sharp with panic. Why didn't you tell me? The HR director sounded utterly confused on the other end, innocent and baffled. I did ask George about it, President Liu. He said you already knew. I even asked if he was going to head a new branch office, since he mentioned starting something independently, and he didn't deny it. So I assumed you two had already discussed it. Discussed it? He thought she knew. She could still feel the sting of his slap, hear the chill of his voice. His only discussion with her had been a breakup and a blow across the face. Willow's whole body trembled with rage. She slammed the phone shut with a sharp click, her fury boiling over. But before she could even process the blow she'd just received, her phone chimed again. Ding! The screen lit up once more. This time, it was a message from another company shareholder. No extra words, no explanation. Just a single photo, one that stabbed straight into her eyes. It was a picture of a share transfer agreement. Black ink on white paper, crystal clear, and right there in bold print, George's name. All 50% of the company shares he once held had been quietly sold off, bit by bit, to the minor shareholders. He hadn't just left, he'd pulled the rug right out from under her. George had completely withdrawn from her company. The realization struck her like thunder. Her knees weakened, her body swaying uncontrollably. The sting on her face, the whispers and mockery ringing in her ears, all of it suddenly felt absurdly trivial, because this was his real revenge. Clean, precise, and utterly merciless. Chapter 7. After wrapping up the last of my affairs, I packed a single suitcase and boarded a flight to Xinjiang, the land of music, dance, and endless horizons. For so many years, I had lived like a wound-up spring, tight, relentless, chasing the illusion of a better life, chasing her. Now that the spring had finally unwound, I was left with something I hadn't had in years. Time to see the world, time to finally let my battered heart rest. The beauty here was quiet, so pure it seemed to cleanse the soul. The sky was a flawless blue, so vivid and transparent it made your chest ache. My local guide was a woman named Anna. She carried the natural grace of her ethnic heritage, strikingly beautiful, with eyes that sparkled when she smiled. She was talkative, charming, full of stories about local traditions and hidden landmarks. Her laughter and warmth somehow washed away the last shadows lingering in my heart. After spending a week wandering the city, my phone rang. The caller ID read David. His voice, on the other end of the line, felt like it came from another world. George, has Willow tried to contact you? He sounded hesitant, careful. I stared at the endless stretch of grasslands before me, my tone calm, almost detached. No idea. I've blocked all her contacts. I'm traveling right now. There was silence for a while. I could almost hear him exhale as he searched for the right words. She's gone crazy, man. Calling everyone we know, trying to find out where you are. George, I think she regrets it. She wants to apologize. He paused, then finally asked the question that hung heavy between us. Would you ever forgive her? Forgive? I shook my head, then remembered he couldn't see it. So I spoke softly, more to myself than to him. No, I don't love her anymore. And the moment I said it, an incredible sense of peace washed over me. Light, freeing, final. On the other end of the line, David sighed, a long, heavy sound. It's such a shame. George, you only get so many years in a lifetime. She took up nearly all of your youth, your first half of life together, and now it's all gone. His voice was filled with disbelief, regret. How does love change so fast? I turned my back to the setting sun. Before me, the grasslands stretched endlessly, waves of green rippling in the wind. I let out a quiet sigh, without resentment, without sorrow, only acceptance. People, I said softly, are the most changeable creatures in the world. Human hearts shift and twist. They're unpredictable. That's just the way it is. David's voice grew low, heavy. I don't think Willow will give up so easily. She's obsessed. She even tried to pull strings to check flight records. She might actually come find you. The wind brushed past my ears, cool and clean, carrying the scent of open fields. I smiled faintly, though my eyes stayed calm and distant. Xinjiang is vast. If she wants to find me, let her try. I didn't come here to hide from anyone. I came here to find peace for myself. Whether she comes or not, it doesn't matter anymore. On the other end of the line, David sighed again and started telling me what happened after I'd left the reunion. He said that after I walked out, that man, Makoto, had the audacity to keep pestering Willow, pretending to look pitiful as he tried to cling to her. But Willow, he said, had changed completely. Her eyes went cold, and she shook his hand off with a single motion, telling him to get lost and stay away from her forever. Makoto lost it right then and there, started shouting like a madman in front of everyone. But Willow didn't even spare him a glance. She just turned on her heel and left, never looking back. I listened quietly, as if hearing someone else's story, something that had nothing to do with me anymore. Everything about them, those names, Those scenes fell on my ears like faint echoes. No anger, no sorrow, not even nostalgia. When I didn't respond, David's tone turned bitter, edged with frustration. Can you believe her? She's completely out of her mind. Only when it's all gone does she finally realize what she's lost. People never cherish the happiness they have in their hands. They have to crush it to pieces first, then cry and scream about regret. His voice still echoed faintly when, behind me, another voice broke through the wind. A voice both hesitant and trembling, with disbelief. George? I froze mid-step, bringing the phone back to my ear. I said calmly, David, I'll call you later. She's here. Before he could react, I hung up. Then I turned around slowly, and there she was, Willow, stumbling toward me, almost tripping in her haste. In just a few days, she looked like she'd aged years. The light in her eyes was gone. Her once perfectly styled hair now a tangled mess. Gone was the radiant, decisive President Lou everyone admired. She stopped a few feet in front of me, chest heaving, gasping for breath. When she spoke, her voice was raw and trembling, full of panic and disbelief. Why did you quit your job, George? Why did you sell all your shares? Why can't I reach you? Why did you block me on everything, every number, every app? I met her bloodshot, desperate eyes, and, to her shock, smiled. A small, quiet smile, calm, distant, because we broke up. Willow, when a relationship ends, it should end cleanly. I didn't want any more entanglements, so I left the company. As for the shares, I paused, my tone level, almost businesslike. They were the reward for my youth, the years I spent building that company. I simply took what I earned. As for blocking you everywhere, I looked her straight in the eye, my voice soft but unyielding. I think a proper ex should be just like the dead, completely gone from your life. My gaze didn't waver as it met her trembling pupils. I won't interfere with your new life, so please, stop showing up in mine. That's all there is to it. I never agreed to break up. George. Willow's voice cracked, rising into a hoarse shout. Her red-rimmed eyes blazed with stubborn denial, trembling with desperation. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh, like someone hearing an absurd joke. Willow, I said lightly, it's a breakup, not a divorce. I don't need your consent. Willow's eyes were bloodshot and blazing with unwillingness as she demanded. Is it just because I didn't reply to your message that day? I told you, I was busy with work. She stepped closer, voice thick with tears and grievance. Don't you think you're making a mountain out of a molehill? Yes, I answered that single word, clear and certain, shattering every comforting lie she'd been clinging to. Because of that day, I told you in advance, one day before, that I had something extremely important and asked you to keep the time free. Then on that day I messaged you before dawn, waiting all day full of hope. But you, from morning until dusk, an entire day, I waited until the sun went down, and you never sent me a single reply. My tone was like a blade forged in ice, each syllable slicing away at the last of her defenses. You say you were working, but be honest, were you doing your own work? You were helping Makoto solve his project crisis. He's your subordinate, that's his job, not yours. You stood him up for a whole day. Not a single message for me, so I broke up with you. I watched her face drain of color and spoke slowly and deliberately, making sure every word landed. Am I being clear? Willow, I'm no longer your first choice. A flawed treasure to me is no different than a stone on the roadside. I don't want a tainted love. I turned my head slightly toward the last sliver of sunset on the horizon and let out a wry, weary smile. You know me. Since childhood, I never tolerate even a grain of sand in my sight. Willow drew a deep breath. Her fingertips went white from gripping too hard. She forced herself to hold back the collapse. George, I swear I haven't done anything to hurt you. A faint, barely noticeable plea undercut her words. My relationship with Makoto was really just a senior helping a junior, trying to help him grow, to shoulder some burden for the company. I didn't cheat. You can't just sentence me to death. Sentence me to death. I laughed, as if hearing the most absurd joke. A cold curve touched my lips. Willow, in your mind, does cheating only count if it's physical? I despise physical cheating, but emotional cheating, that disgusts me even more. I stared at the woman I had once loved to the marrow, now so alien, as if separated by oceans and mountains. After more than 20 years together, I never imagined I would use such poisonous words to gouge her heart. But perhaps I'd forgotten something about myself. I had always been solitary and cold. It was she who had, with the warmth of a sun, slowly melted the ice around me. And now, she had pushed me back into that bottomless, frozen pit with her own hands. Yes, you didn't physically cheat. My voice was calm, so calm it cut deeper than rage ever could. But you did enjoy his worship, didn't you? You let him cross boundaries again and again, using work as an excuse to get closer. When you abandoned me for his so-called project crisis, when you let him into your home, into your kitchen, cooking for you, when you put him first, solving all his problems before even thinking of mine, when you defended him, again and again, calling me petty, jealous, cruel with my words. Willow, my heart didn't die all at once. It died a little every time you ignored me, every time you blamed me. 3 feet of ice doesn't form in a day. A heart doesn't go cold overnight. These things pile up, one small cut after another, like a frog boiling in warm water, until the pain finally sets in. And by then, the love's already turned to ashes. That's all there is to it. Just as my words faded, the sound of light footsteps approached. Anna had come back, holding 2 cups of chilled yogurt, her clear eyes full of confusion. She looked from my frostbitten face to Willow's tear-streaked one, clearly unsure what kind of storm she'd just walked into. And in that instant, at the sight of her, I felt my tension melt away, as if someone had loosened a knot in my chest. I gave her a gentle smile, one born of simple gratitude. Reaching out naturally, I took a cup from her hand. Willow's eyes, red and raw, locked on Anna like a cornered animal. Her fingers trembled as she pointed, voice sharp enough to slice through the quiet dusk. Who is she? You've been in Xinjiang for days. Have you been with her this whole time? Is this why you broke up with me? Because you already had her? Her voice rose higher with every word, wild with humiliation and rage. George, are you the one who cheated first? Slap. The sound cracked through the air, louder, sharper than the last. The world went still. I lowered my hand, watching the red mark bloom across her cheek, and said coldly, Willow, don't measure me with your restless heart. My tone was glacial. She's my tour guide, nothing more. If she's just your tour guide, Willow screamed, clutching her face, trembling on the edge of hysteria. Then why? George, why are you doing this to me? All this, just because I didn't reply for one day. You broke up with me over that. I've already apologized. What more do you want from me? I looked at her, this woman unraveling before me, and felt no pity, no anger, only silence, only emptiness. Drawing in a deep breath, I let the cold air burn its way through my chest. Do you know, I said slowly, what I was planning that day, the day I sent you those messages? Her cries stopped. She froze, eyes wide, lips trembling, but no sound came. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. You see, even now, you don't ask. You don't even care to ask. The Willow I used to know would have treasured every word I said, every breath. My gaze drifted past her to the far horizon, where the last streaks of sunset were fading into night. Willow, I said quietly, the weight of it pressing into the silence. That day, I bought a ring. I was going to propose to you. Time seemed to stop. Every trace of expression froze on Willow's face, until only shock remained. Vast, hollow, disbelieving shock. We grew up together, I said quietly. We depended on each other. We endured things most people can't imagine. And finally, we reached the light after all that hardship. But when Makoto appeared, for the first time, I felt afraid. I was afraid of losing you. I wanted to keep you, to bind you to me, with a ring, a certificate, something permanent. I gave a small, bitter laugh. Looking back now, how naive I was. My eyes were barren, empty as winter soil. But maybe I should thank you for not showing up that day. Thank you for breaking our plans, because if we had gotten married, I can't imagine how I would live with a wife whose heart belonged to someone else. I can't imagine watching you keep up that same boundaryless, ambiguous relationship with Makoto. It would have destroyed me. I would have become a jealous, paranoid lunatic, eaten alive by my own doubt. Fortunately, I exhaled slowly, almost peacefully. Fortunately, I stopped in time. Willow just stared at me, hollow, like her soul had slipped away. Those eyes that once sparkled like stars were now empty, drained of everything. Then, too late, tears began to fall. They traced silent lines down her cheeks, shimmering with the dull ache of something shattered. I didn't know. George, I swear I didn't know you were going to propose. Her voice trembled, weak, desperate to defend herself. We were planning to get married next year anyway, weren't we? You were only helping a junior colleague. Enough. My voice cut sharp and cold through her excuses. I don't want to hear another word of your hollow justifications. George. She lunged forward, grabbing my hand with both of hers, gripping it like a drowning person clinging to driftwood. I can change. I swear I'll change, she cried, her voice breaking. We can fix this. We can fix everything. Just please don't give up on me like this. Her fingertips were cold, her palms slick with sweat. She held on tight, trembling. Don't you remember? She sobbed. We were so good together once. We survived all those miserable years side by side. Her words came choked, soaked in memories that hurt to hear. We used to live in that leaking basement, eating cold dumplings, and you laughed. Said that as long as we were together, even cold dumplings tasted better than a royal feast. I've loved you since the first moment I saw you. I never wanted anyone else. You were always the only one I ever saw as my husband. Please, don't throw me away so easily. Her voice was drenched in tears, humble, pleading, collapsing into the dirt. Yes, the past had been beautiful. I lowered my eyes, looking at her hands clinging so desperately to mine, and because it had been so beautiful, that's exactly why I can't accept what it's become. I said slowly, each word cutting like a blade. I can't live with the ghost of what we used to be. I can't settle. This is where it ends. With all the strength I had left, I pried her fingers off, one by one, then I turned, reached for Anna's hand, and walked away, without hesitation, without looking back. Behind me, Willow's sobs broke open, wild, guttural, ripping through the still air. Her cry was the sound of something ending, completely, irreversibly. Chapter 8. During my last 2 days in Xinjiang, the wind felt free, and the clouds stretched lazily across the boundless sky. Before heading back, Anna and I exchanged contact information under the glow of the setting sun. She accompanied me to the airport, her deep, star-like eyes holding mine as she asked softly, "Will you come back someday?" The wind caught her hair, lifting it gently, carrying a trace of reluctance. I looked into her clear gaze, and for a moment, I thought I saw the reflection of the snowy peaks of the Tian Shan Mountains. "Maybe," I said with a small smile. "I really like it here." "Then promise me," she said, smiling faintly, "when you come back, you'll find me again." "I promise." As the plane pierced through the clouds, my thoughts drifted elsewhere, to something that had been buried in my memory for years, the one keepsake I had when Grandpa Lee adopted me. He once told me it might be the only trace left by my birth parents, and for all these years, it had been locked away, in Willow's office. It was time to take it back. Chapter 9. The moment I stepped into the company, dozens of eyes turned toward me in unison. The air was thick with an uneasy silence. Familiar faces froze mid-motion. Colleagues who used to greet me with laughter now pressed their lips together, swallowing their words, their gazes tangled with guilt, pity, and curiosity. I nodded faintly to them, keeping a polite but distant smile on my face. Then I walked straight toward the office at the end of the corridor. Willow's door was slightly ajar, and through the narrow gap spilled the sound of a heated argument. Makoto's obsequious voice slithered through first. "President Liu, I made this porridge myself, please have some. You haven't eaten properly these days. Your stomach will get worse if you keep this up." Then came Willow's voice, furious, sharp, and raw enough to tear the air apart. "Get out. I told you to leave." I said resign immediately. Makoto's voice quivered, laced with fake grievance. "What did I do wrong? President Liu, I just care about you. Please don't be mad at me, okay? I just..." Bang. The crash was deafening, the sound of porcelain shattering against the floor, exploding into fragments. Makoto yelped, his voice high and panicked, dripping with humiliation. I said, "Get out. Do you not understand human language?" I stood outside, listening to everything with a blank face and a silent heart. Then, without hesitation, I raised my hand and pushed the door open. The chaos inside froze instantly. Willow, standing amidst the wreckage, her chest heaving, her expression wild, looked up at the sound, and when her eyes met mine, the raging inferno behind them went out in an instant. In its place, something else flickered to life, something fragile, bright, almost childlike. She shot up from behind the desk, almost stumbling, and rushed toward me. The same eyes that moments ago had burned with fury were now brimming with trembling delight and desperate hope. "George, you're back." Her voice trembled as she spoke, laced with a nervous, tentative sweetness. "You're not mad at me anymore, right? I promise I won't ever again." Halfway through her sentence, Willow's eyes flicked toward Makoto, and panic instantly clouded her face. I have nothing to do with him, really. He just came to deliver something. I didn't even take it. I already told him to resign. He's the one who refuses to leave. Please don't misunderstand. You." My expression didn't change. "There's no need to explain." I cut her off flatly, voice calm and cold. "I'm just here to take back my pendant." The word pendant seemed to drain the last bit of life from her. Willow's face went completely white, all the color fleeing in an instant. You're taking it back," she whispered, her lips trembling, her voice so soft it almost shattered. "You really don't want to have anything to do with me anymore, do you?" I looked at her, eyes as still and dry as a desert. "Let's just say that's the case." That faint, effortless reply was the final straw that broke her. Willow lunged forward, grabbing my arm with desperate force, her nails digging so deep I could feel the sting through my sleeve. "George, don't sentence me to death." Her tears burst forth, raw and uncontrollable, spilling down her face as her voice cracked. "Please, give me a chance to make it right. I know I was wrong before. It was me. I had no sense of boundaries. I hurt you. I was blind." She clung to me like a drowning woman clings to air. "Please don't end it like this. I'll change. I swear. We can go back to how we used to be." President Liu." A sharp voice split the air like glass breaking. Makoto's face was red with fury. He pointed at me, voice shaking with anger and wounded pride. "This isn't your fault. Why do you have to humble yourself like this? George isn't worth it. He's got a terrible temper. He never appreciates you. You're always the one making up to him. Always walking on eggshells. Why are you lowering yourself for him? Willow spun around, eyes blazing through her tears. Shut up, she screamed. Her hand whipped through the air and struck his face with a sharp crack that echoed painfully through the office. Who gave you permission to talk about George like that? Makoto's head snapped to the side. He clutched his burning cheek, staring at her in disbelief and humiliation. His voice shook when he finally spoke. President Liu, you're so incredible, so talented. Why do you have to be so weak for him? In this relationship, you're the one who's always giving, always suffering. Why should he get to take everything for granted? He never finished the sentence. A sudden blackness swept across his vision as my fist connected with his jaw. The dull thud of bone meeting flesh filled the silence like thunder. Had enough, I said coldly, shaking out my hand. Makoto stumbled back 2 steps, a smear of blood glinting at the corner of his mouth. He glared at me, hatred twisting his features. At the open doorway, the air was thick with gasps. A crowd of stunned co-workers frozen in place. I met Makoto's venomous stare and let out a low, scornful laugh. And who the hell do you think you are, to judge what was between us? A social climber so desperate to move up that you'd sleep your way there. And you think you're worthy to speak about love? You say I'm not good enough for her. My eyes narrowed, my tone razor sharp. Tell me, does that mean you are? The words hit their mark like knives. Makoto's composure shattered. He roared, face twisting with rage. I'm telling the truth. You just bully her. She's done everything for you, given you gifts, cared about you, and you treat her like trash. Why? Just because you met her first, George. I'll tell you why. My voice cracked through the room like a hammer shattering steel. Because the one who stood beside her, building everything from nothing to the top of the world, was me. Each word landed heavy, echoing against the stunned silence of the office. Because in the early days of our startup, I was the one running deals with her until my stomach bled from the cheap liquor. I was the one staying up 3 nights straight, rewriting proposals until dawn. Because every bit of the glory she basks in today, half of that metal belongs to me. I took a slow, deliberate step toward Makoto, my eyes cold and scorched of all emotion. You think you know her? You think she's the victim here? You speak like some moral savior, so righteous and pure. Tell me, if she weren't the high and mighty President Liu, if she had nothing, no power, no title, would you still wag your tail behind her like a dog begging for scraps? What happens between me and her is none of your damn business. Yes, we broke up, but that doesn't mean every random clown gets to pass judgment on what I gave to that relationship. Know your place, pretty boy. Makoto's face turned the color of bruised flesh. He shouted hoarsely, his pride splintering. What did I do wrong? I'm just going after the person I love. In a relationship, the one who isn't loved, that's the real third wheel. Crack. Another fist connected. This one was harder, merciless. I could almost hear the bones shift beneath my knuckles. Willow stood frozen beside us, watching in silence. She didn't defend him. She didn't stop me. Her silence sliced through all 3 of us, cold, invisible, deadly sharp. I let out a low, humorless laugh. You're right, I said slowly. Makoto's eyes widened in confusion. In love, I continued. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. You schemed. You stirred up trouble. You sowed doubt between us. Now that we've broken up, the spot you dreamed of is wide open. But tell me, does she love you? My words hit him like a knife, stabbing through his already bleeding ego. You're still the same pathetic shadow, hiding in the dark. Still the one who can't be seen, can't be chosen, can't be loved. A third wheel is a third wheel, always shameful, always despised. The kind of man who disgusts everyone he touches. I didn't bother to look at him again. I brushed past his trembling form and walked toward Willow's desk. She instinctively stepped back, as if I were something dangerous, untamed, expressionless. I opened the drawer she used most often. There it was, my pendant, lying quietly in a velvet box beside her most treasured jewelry. I picked it up. The cold metal bit into my palm, mocking the entire farce that had unfolded before us. This is it, I said evenly. Her face was white as chalk. Willow, I told her softly, from now on, your bridge is your bridge, my road is my road. No more crossings, no more us. I turned and walked away, didn't look back. Behind me, there was only dead silence, and the sharp hiss of the crowd outside drawing breath. Later, I heard Makoto was fired from the Liu Group that very day, and somehow, the industry learned everything. His sleazy tricks, his habit of chasing wealthy women, his attempts to manipulate others' relationships. Within months, he was blacklisted, a pariah. Less than a year later, he slunk back to his hometown, disappearing without a trace. As for Willow, she never sought me out again. She remained President Liu, still ruling her empire. But from what I heard, she changed. Her laughter vanished, her warmth turned to ice. People avoided her in the halls, afraid of the shadows clinging to her. None of that mattered anymore. Letting go of someone is like carving a piece of flesh from your own body. Agony beyond words, but wounds heal. They always do. The damp, suffocating air of the south pressed down on me. So I went back to Xinjiang. The wind across the Gobi was dry and fierce, but it swept away the last trace of gloom in my heart. At the inn, the one who greeted me was the same girl, Anna. Her smile was still pure, bright as sunlight on snow. Would there be a new story between us? I didn't know, but I knew one thing for sure. I only want love that's whole. 100%. Anything less, I'd rather have nothing at all.